This is James Corbett of CorbettReport.com with your Sunday update for this 14th day of November 2010. And now for the real news. In our top story this week, a researcher at the Prison Planet Forum has located a cache of thousands of archived documents from the former webpage of PTech Inc., including PDFs of corporate information, presentations, and customer data. The treasure trove of archived information is currently being pored over by researchers and is significant because it promises to reveal even more information about the inner workings of PTech, a company many suspect of being a key linchpin connecting the worlds of IT infrastructure, covert intelligence operations, and global terrorism.
PTech CEO is Osama Ziadi. This is him, 3 years ago in Saudi Arabia. He's pictured with a man named Yassin Al-Qadi, a Saudi named by President Bush as a financial backer of Osama bin Laden.
Yassin Al-Qadi fits in this category of wealthy Saudi businessmen who believe in and finance radical Islamic extremist groups worldwide.
In an investigation done by CBS station WBZ-TV, 3 sources say Al-Qadi is the chief financial backer of PTech. Then there's PTech board member Yaqub Mirza. He's an officer for a string of Islamic charities which have been a concern to the U.S. government. This becomes all the more alarming when you learn exactly what it is PTech does. The company works in enterprise architecture, the blueprinting of an entire computer network. Computer consultant Indira Singh says such a company could gain full access to a client's data.
That could be rather dangerous.
It could be devastatingly dangerous.
Especially when you examine the roster of PTech's clients. The company's webpage lists the FBI, the IRS, NATO, the Air Force, the Naval Air Command, the Departments of Energy and Education, the Postal Service, the U.S. House of Representatives. Other sources say PTech has done business with the Department of Defense, the Secret Service, even the White House.
And that gives you a tremendous opportunity, if you're so inclined, to examine, manipulate, download all of the most sensitive information of whoever it is you've contracted with.
Absolutely.
Last year, the FBI unsealed a 2007 indictment of former PTech CEO Osama Ziad and former CFO Buford George Peterson for lying to investigators about the role of Yassin Al-Qadi in helping to fund the company. Yassin Al-Qadi was named a specially designated global terrorist by the U.S. Treasury in the wake of 9/11, and his assets were frozen by the U.S. government. The move against Al-Qadi was made largely due to the work of FBI agent Robert Wright, who spent the late 1990s tracking Al-Qadi's terror financing in a program called Vulgar Betrayal. Bizarrely enough, for people who think that the upper levels of U.S. counterterrorism want to prevent global terrorism instead of foster, fund, and support it, when Wright began to connect Al-Qadi to the 1998 African embassy bombings and began pressing for a criminal investigation into the case, his supervisor flew into a rage, saying, "You will not open criminal investigations. I forbid any of you. You will not open criminal investigations against any of these intelligence subjects." After 9/11, Wright attempted to go public as a whistleblower about his investigation and how it could have prevented the attacks, but was again thwarted by the FBI, who refused to let him publish a book on the FBI's failures.
Knowing what I know, and again, this was written 91 days before the attack, knowing what I know, I can confidently say that until the investigative responsibilities for terrorism are removed from the FBI, I will not feel safe. The FBI has proven for the past decade it cannot identify and prevent acts of terrorism against the United States and its citizens at home and abroad. Even worse, there is virtually no effort on the part of the FBI's International Terrorism Unit to neutralize known and suspected terrorists residing within the United States. Unfortunately, more terrorist attacks against American interests, coupled with the loss of American lives, will have to occur before those in power give this matter the urgent attention it deserves. Realizing more American lives are going to be needlessly lost, no one should expect me to consciously sit idly by and pretend to forget the things I know. By sharing what I know, the terrorism problems plaguing America may be corrected. Knowing what I know, I truly believe I would be derelict in my duty as an American if I did not do my best to bring the FBI's dereliction of duty to the attention of others.
The connection to 9/11 comes from researcher Indira Singh, who was working as a risk management consultant for JP Morgan in 2001 and 2002. She was looking at PTech software to implement the next generation of risk management enterprise architecture software at JP Morgan, but became suspicious after she began her own investigation into the company. She uncovered information that indicated that PTech was running its software with access to the most sensitive parts of an organization's cyber infrastructure in the basement of the FAA on the morning of 9/11.
PTech was with MITRE in the basement of the FAA for 2 years prior to 9/11. Their specific job was to look at interoperability issues the FAA had with NORAD and the Air Force in the case of an emergency. If anyone was in a position to know that the FAA, there was a window of opportunity or to insert software or to change anything, it would have been PTech along with MITRE. And that ties right back to Michael Rupert's information. The functionality that Michael is claiming that Dick Cheney utilized is the exact same functionality I was looking to utilize PTech for in the bank. I was looking to set up a shadow surveillance system on everything going on, every transaction, and the ability to backdoor, look at information unobtrusively, and to backdoor intelligent agents out there to do things that other people would not be aware of.
Given that no mainstream media outlet anywhere in the world is paying any attention to this story, its ramifications, or the latest developments, experts are suggesting that interested viewers take up the task of relaying this information and examining the archive data for themselves, using the links provided with this video. In other news, this week brought an onslaught of bad news for the alarmists who are attempting to peg cyclical climatic variations with man-made CO2. A new study published this week in Science shows that predictions that a warming climate will destroy forests are entirely untrue. The study, conducted by the Smithsonian Tropical Research Institute, showed that during a period 56 million years ago known as the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, in which temperatures were 3 to 5 degrees Celsius warmer than today, forests did not die, but instead bloomed with diversity, with many species evolving quicker in the warmer temperatures. The study also concluded that moisture levels did not decrease significantly during the period, contrary to all alarmist predictions and the computer models that they create to provide post-hoc justification for their initial assumptions. In other climate news, researchers at Australian National University released a scathing review of an abandoned solar panel subsidy scheme that cost over $1 billion to Australian taxpayers. The report concludes that the scheme reduced Australia's carbon emissions by a striking 0.015%, meaning that the scheme cost $301 per ton of carbon saved. What's more, the majority of that $1 billion was spent on panels from foreign manufacturers, meaning that Australian taxpayers were sending hundreds of millions of dollars out of the country for the program. Despite the ongoing meltdown of the carbon-induced warming hypothesis, governments and researchers with a vested interest in keeping the alarmist research funding flowing are scrambling to continue whipping up hysteria over the life-giving CO2 gas in the run-up to next month's climate talks in Cancun, Mexico. In the most blatant example, a recent death in Brazil from a snake bite is being blamed on carbon dioxide. As the Warmlist at numberwatch.co.uk points out, this is just the latest thing to be blamed on global warming, with several hundred other items, including the downing of Air France Flight 447, increases in kidney stones, psychosocial illness, and, according to the Tokyo governor, the ending of the Olympic Games after 2016. Finally this week, rogue economic analyst Max Kaiser is suggesting a new and remarkably simple way for the average person to strike back against the multi-billion-dollar banking behemoths who are manipulating the precious metals markets. A strategy that could bring down JP Morgan itself.
I got an idea.
Okay.
I just thought of this during the break. You know, I was talking to this guy, Michael Krieger, who's someone you should have on your show, by the way. He's very hooked in with the guys over at Zero Hedge. He's a brilliant writer. He's got some fantastic stuff to share. Michael Krieger is his name. You should have him on your show. But I was talking to him about the fact that if everyone in America bought one silver coin, or even if 100 million people in America bought one silver coin, that's 100 million ounces, and take that off the market, it would crash JP Morgan, and we would have a scalp. We would have a major victory. So my idea is, what about one of your, force this up to Google search ideas with the search term, crash JP Morgan, buy silver. if we can, in fact, crash J.P. Morgan by getting everybody to buy 1 ounce of silver.
Now please go to CorbettReport.com to download episode 162 of the Corbett Report podcast, Remembering Aaron Russo, where we celebrate the life, work, and achievements of the late, great Aaron Russo.